What are some of the goals for the 2023 to 2024 school district for Yakima School District?
All of our goals are centered around our strategic plan. So we spent significant time with our community, over 300 members coming together, politicians, student voice, parents, community members, business leaders, faith-based leaders. And that was in 19 and 20 to design a 6-year strategic plan. So all of our goals center around making sure that we are becoming proficient in the 5 areas, the 5 goals that we have. They center around everything from early learning, preparation and entry into our district, because we know that's an indicator of success later on, to graduation rate, to academic achievement, to bilingual education, to attendance. So our goals really center around those 5 different audacious goals that are encompassed in what we call our school compass.
What are some of the challenges that the school district is facing in achieving these goals?
Well, I think when you talk about education and achieving any goals, the beautiful thing about working in a school district is that it relates to the actual community. So it's influenced by the community, the surrounding area, the partnerships that are in place. So when you're talking about challenges, and let's just take one for example, attendance. We have an attendance goal of 95% for our students. We know that if they are not in school, then it's very difficult, if not impossible, to make sure that they're reaching the level of achievement that they could otherwise. So to engage both our community and our parents and all types of leaders across the system to make sure that we have the supports in place so that students can come to school. It's not as simple as somebody saying, talk to the parents, talk to the kid, find out what that motivational piece is, because there is this baggage that sometimes comes with the lives of our students. So we're in an area where we have 93% of our students live in poverty, and we've recognized that across our system we have issues in Yakima with domestic violence. So people might say, oh, the predominant issue in Yakima when you're talking about police action would be gang-related activities. That's not the case. What we found in working with our police department, and credit to the Yakima Police Department in identifying that domestic violence is an issue that permeates not only our society, but then results in students becoming a part of the gang culture. So if we want to disrupt the gang culture, it goes back to making sure that we're addressing domestic violence. So you can imagine if you're a student, a second grade, first grade, or kinder student, whatever grade, and you have a police action take place at your home that evening or the evening prior, you wake up in the morning after being up maybe most of the night and having that adrenaline going in your system and recognizing that your life is maybe not the life that every other student may have, or you might think of that in the moment. It becomes very easy not to go to school the next day and to let that become an excuse. And what we do is we work in partnership with our police department to identify, for example, when students have something that takes place at their home that requires a police action. So immediately what happens within the next 24 hours, by 6:15 the next morning, our safety and security director is notified that there has been police visitation to the home of one of our students. And then what we do is we go into action with our support team and we notify the principal, the counselors, and the teacher, not about what happened specifically, but that there was some traumatic event that happened at home the night prior. And that allows us to then keep an eye on that student and respond if there are any signs of challenges or trauma that they may have. And they're more apt to then come to school and to seek that as a place of solace for students that have those traumatic events happening. And then also, if the student doesn't show up the next day, we know that there was something that happened and we can reach out and be more proactive. So it's really complex when you're looking at what can be done around something like attendance, and then you take all of the goals that we have as a district and think about the root cause and how we can achieve mastery in those areas. It's even more complex, but it's wonderful work.
Are there still effects from the pandemic that are affecting students here in the Yakima School District?
Absolutely, there are. I mean, we see gaps in what students know when they, typically when you have a student at a certain grade, they come in. Let's say, for example, if you have a first grader or a second grader, the kinder students did not come in with the skills that they knew around socialization that they would have known in having just free play with friends and others before they came into school. We saw students that would have been kinder going into first grade lacking some of the very basic skills that they would need to be more successful at those primary levels. So yeah, we do see gaps all the way up to the high school levels, and kudos to educators across our system, not only in the Yakima School District but across the state and nation, who are working to close those gaps and to achieve the level of mastery that existed prior to the pandemic, but then elevate well beyond that. So we have seen a significant dip in outcomes since pre-pandemic to post-pandemic, but we've also seen a steady increase in outcomes over the last couple of years. And it's a challenge because we have those that residual impact from the pandemic, but we also realize that we can't lean on that as an excuse. I don't want to hear that as a parent. I know the public is exhausted about hearing something that they may interpret as an excuse. So it's not an excuse. It is certainly just the reality, the context of what we face as an educational system in today's day and age.
How did the pandemic impact local teachers here?
The pandemic impacted all professions, and I think when you're talking about teachers, the shift from in school brick and mortar learning to online virtual learning was very challenging, something for which we were not prepared, and I think that everybody did the best that they could during the time. And now we've transitioned back, and there is more of a recognition of what happens in the households of our students, because we had a window into the actual home. And I think that that's helped connect in a way that wouldn't have been there previously. But at the same time, there is that impact of having gone through such a worldwide issue that impacted all types of professions, not just the teaching profession. So I think when you're talking about the impact, it's more of the adult impact and the differentiated needs that they have in handling stress and trauma of their own, because while they continue to work and to try to provide resources for students and families, they were also going through a challenging time just like everyone else. And we're just proud as a school district that during the pandemic we were able to keep everybody employed. We did not lay off one single employee. When you look around at other districts, they were not able to maintain that commitment to their staff or their community, and we know that helped out greatly, as did supporting students with those experiencing food insecurity. We provided the most meals of any district in the entire state during the pandemic period, and we certainly currently do have a free program for all of our students. We know that coming to school and being hungry or cold and not having these external needs met, warmth, food, love, nurturing, things like that may be lacking in some instances. If we can fill those gaps, and we know that students will change the mentality and be more focused on what they can do day to day.
I've seen a big push lately for mental health resources as well. Have we seen a big need for that here in the Yakima School District, and how is this being physically manifested by the school district to help?
Yeah, there's a big need for mental health supports, and we have even pre-pandemic we committed more resources to mental health. We have a higher than average ratio of counselor support for to students, which if you think about the ratio in the state currently, it is very disproportionate, and we've been able to bring that more in line. But I would say that we need a stronger commitment across the state to address mental health from the counseling perspective in being able to fund those positions. We have social workers as well, school psychologists. We have a curriculum that starts at for the primary level and the secondary level to help address the mental health needs of students. And we live in a time where, fortunately, we're more open about mental health issues, and it's not as taboo to talk about how one is feeling or coping, or the needs that one may have in today's day and age. So being very open and vulnerable in those areas, and I referenced the traumatic events that happen when a student is having challenges at home. and being able to daylight those internally and then address the needs of the student without flagging those issues in a way that makes him or her feel less than is important also. So it's all about having the knowledge, the information, and then as an adult knowing what to do and how to tap into the resources that we currently have in place. And fortunately, post-pandemic, we did receive federal funding that allowed us to invest significantly in areas that would help with mental health. And we do still see those issues, the mental health issues come up, but we are much more in tune with what those can be and what the signs are and how to address those.
One topic that could relate to mental health issues is, and a parent had asked us, is to ask superintendents, is how can we keep drugs and alcohol away from our students and out of schools?
Yeah. You're talking about an issue, drugs and alcohol, that and this is what happens with educational institutions is we feel at times as the institution itself that everything could be our responsibility, but it does take a partnership. There's a saying that I love. It's an African saying. I wish I knew exactly which tribe it came from, but it states that the child that does not feel the warmth of the village will burn it down to feel it, to feel that heat, to feel that love, right? To feel that warmth. So if we're not addressing the needs of the student, then there will be a way that they will find to get some type of recognition. So when you're talking about drugs and alcohol, if I were talking to a parent, I would say be very open about the expectations that you have. Take many moments to flag issues and hammer that in over a longer period of time. It's not simply one conversation about drugs and alcohol. It's how you address situations with your child. Of what are you going to do in this situation? What happens in that situation? You find yourself in this circumstances. What would you do? And then sharing also the expectations and non-judgmental perspective of a parent that allows students that safety or children that safety to talk with you. And I think that's a big way of addressing the issues. But then also we know that when people go to school, when students go to school, there is certainly that relationship that they have with others, and peer pressure does exist. And it's important to then, again, address mental health issues with students, but also teach them how to surface items and talk about things that are on their mind and create that space. And we're very proud of not only our academic achievement and growth, but the structures that we have in place for students to have conversations that are more around issues of day-to-day that are away from the academic, that certainly influence the academic.
Nationally, we've seen trends of violence towards schools, specifically high schools, specifically gun violence. Have we seen anything like that here in the Yakima School District?
Well, we've seen violence across all of our communities, and so when you're talking about violence in a school district, I think you're really talking about violence in a community because it can be manifest in any location. Certainly when you're talking about school systems, we have a large quantity of students, a large amount of students in a setting, and things certainly could happen. And I think we've seen nationally when you're talking about a mass shooting per day that nobody is immune. We do take great precautions to make sure that our students are safe. In fact, in the Yakima School District, one of the things that we do boast is that we have the quickest lockdown response system in the entire country. So every staff member in our entire district has a lanyard that can lock down the school just by clicking the lanyard. And one of the things that you would see in some of the cases, for example, in Parkland, you had security guards actually that even saw the shooter coming on campus. The shooter had been identified as somebody, as a student who, if anybody was going to shoot up the school, it would be this individual. And yet the lockdown did not happen because the system that they had in place was that it had to go through an upper administrator. In fact, I think in this case it was probably the principal or a designated assistant principal who was gone that day. And so there was a self-induced pause where the lockdown was not called, and we've done exactly the opposite here. We have a bus driver that can put a building into lockdown just driving by the school and clicking the lanyard, and we can do the same with groundskeepers, custodians, cooks. Every person in our system has the power to lock down our school and make sure that we are erring on the side of safety. And then that's a great conversation in addition to addressing the issue, but then to work with our staff on what is the actual protocol and what should we be doing based, if it's a stranger that's walking outside, or if it's a actual altercation, what is the most appropriate interaction or most appropriate lockdown action at that time, and that's something that we build upon.
Have there been any discussions about artificial intelligence use within the school district for teachers or students?
Regarding artificial intelligence, we are embarking down that pathway. I wish we were a little bit further down the road, but there are so many competing priorities right now that it's certainly understandable on where we are at this time with AI, artificial intelligence. I think it is something that we have to look at seriously as a resource and not as a roadblock for students to learn. They will find a way, right, to use the resources. I certainly would, and I think we've seen adults take exceptional advantage of things like ChatGPT and other resources that certainly expedite what we do professionally, and why would we not want that for our students? So I think it comes down to how do we then approach that within our educational system. So it may be along the lines of flipping the role of where the work is done. So for example, if I'm writing an essay, maybe there would be a component of that essay that is actually written in class instead of being assigned as homework, where one could go and access a resource that then creates that for you. So I think we tend to look at change as something negative, but we also know the only constant is change, and we do have to continue to adapt and grow with the way that technology is advancing. And by leveraging that in a responsible way, but also then educating ourselves as adults, and especially in the educational realm, teachers, to use it effectively and efficiently is something that we should model, because we know that our students need that advantage moving forward, because certainly there are schools across our country right now that are advanced in their use thereof, and we see those students excelling in ways that we hadn't imagined.
You mentioned earlier that there were no teacher layoffs during the pandemic. Are we experiencing any sort of teacher shortage here in the Yakima School District?
So when I talked about teacher lack of teacher layoffs or employee layoffs during the pandemic, that was certainly true. And what we're seeing now is that we do have teachers that we can employ fully. We are a dual language district, so we have dual language in our kinder, first grade and second grade levels, and we're rolling it up through our system. So every year we have a demand for educators who are bilingual, English, Spanish, and we've been able to meet that demand. We live in an area, fortunately, where many people do speak two languages. We have many paraeducators who are looking to become teachers, and by creating pathways for them to progress from one level of professionalism to another and elevate what they can attain then as a professional, both in retirement and in current employment, is something that's heartening to know that we're growing an entire community around a concept like dual language. And we've been very fortunate in our area not to see or not to experience a collective lack of educators coming into our system, although we still do see certain areas that are in high demand. Nurses are very difficult to find, for example. Speech language pathologists is a role that is in high need, and certainly roles around supplying or providing special education services is an area that is of need as well. So it depends really on in the area, but we're finding that we're doing very well considering what the rest of the country seems to be experiencing in a shortage of personnel.
Are there any new programs coming to the Yakima School District this year that you're particularly excited about?
Oh, so many programs that we have here are benefiting students. And if I think about the high school level, just knowing that the legislator has now approved full funding of Running Start and full funding of college in the high school is a game changer for students in poverty. And for me, I think the thing that I'm most proud of at the secondary level is that we're really working to create a pathway for our students to earn an AA degree, an associate's degree, without leaving the high school. So currently, the way that it stands, students can leave their junior and senior year to take college courses at the local community college, and then they would potentially graduate with that AA degree. The challenge with that is it's an equity of access issue. So if you have small communities where travel is an issue, for example, if you're from a Granger or a Toppenish or a Mabton, it's more challenging to get to an AA program, Running Start program, versus if you live close to a college. So what we're creating is a pathway for students to start taking college and the high school courses as a freshman, and they continue taking a couple classes as a freshman, maybe 2 to 4 classes, continues as a sophomore, junior, senior, and then by partnering with an institution, we can then make sure that that individual graduates with a 4-year degree without ever having stepped foot off our high school campus, because those courses count as a high school completion of a subject, but also the option of going towards an associate's degree. And then that student benefits by leaving high school with that AA certificate, that AA degree in hand, and doesn't have to worry about piecemealing 35 credits from 3 different institutions to hopefully be accepted by Washington State University or University of Washington or Central Washington University. So being one of the, if not the only district that is focused on that pathway and actually succeeding in that pathway is something of great pride. Currently, we have a cohort that is involved in the AA degree through Arizona State University, and right now we have actually started the process of doing the same with an institution in the state, and that would be really a game changer to have an institution internally provide that AA degree for students, and then it would address that equity of access issue for students that can't drive to a community college or that need the additional support of people around them who know them deeply. And then also for those who may not have family who can help them navigate a higher education setting, because it is very challenging, especially when you come from a family that has not ever attained a college degree at any level by a member of the family, and in some cases that does happen. So we're really proud about that opportunity for students.
Is there anything you'd like to add to let parents know?
I would just want to thank our parents out there for embracing us as a partner. We know that we've all gone through school, so we all have our experience of having gone through a pre-K-12 system. And I, for example, had good experiences and I had bad experiences, but they molded me into the individual that I am, and I am now in this position so that we can continue to improve our system for all of our children. And the only way to improve our system is to really know what is working and what is not working. So I would continue to invite our community to reach out to us, either direct call here to our central services. We have our email, obviously, and we have a platform called Let's Talk, where they can get online and access a very clear indicator of pointing out some of the issues that are there. But also we hold community forums, and our elementary programs, when you look at a family night, we get between 300 and 700 people, and we have to do a better job of making sure that parents really feel invited to share that perspective. And so what I would tell parents is, please be very open with us, be direct, and let's make sure that we are improving the system together, because we know that every day we take from you as a parent the most valued treasure that you have into our care, and that is your child or your children. And that's not a responsibility that we take lightly. And if we're able to continue to partner for the success of that individual or individuals, depending on the number in the family, then we know that we are really changing the trajectory of a student, but also the family. Because once you achieve a level of proficiency, whether it's a high school diploma, certification in industry, military, an associate's degree, college, that the earning potential increases drastically, and that increases the quality of life and all types of indicators from financial outcomes to health outcomes. So I would just say to our families, continue to partner with us and let us know what it is you need from us, and then we will co-design those answers together and improve our system collectively.